Hey guys, and welcome back again to me, Ben, playing City Skylines today in my city of Springvalley. It's good to be back here after a lot of those changes that I incorporated in the last two episodes. I think the main focus for me was actually making those train lines more and more visible as they run through my town. I established another little train station over here, so this is going to be Chapin Town. Maybe I'll call it like that in one of the future episodes, I don't know yet. And as I told you at the end of my last episode, I'm actually thinking about establishing a new type of industry here, as I already have a huge farming industry here alongside with a forestry industry over there. And what I'm obviously still missing is the oil and ore part of my industries that are available. So let's check in on the available areas, or at least at specific locations where those industries might be located at. So I'm quickly checking in on my info views here, making sure that I make all my types of raw materials visible. I just want to get rid of these, I don't know how, obviously not that. Well, however, let's get started with this view here, because I think it's well enough to at least show you what I'm talking about. So I do have some oil sitting over here. I have some ore located right next to it. I know that there is one of the huge oil fields here in Barlow Industrial Valley, but the thing, or more or less the reason why I don't want to establish it here right away, is because I do have Barlow District and Foggy Heights located right next to it, and I think it might cause a lot of worrying and troublesome pollution that I want to avoid if possible at all. Here I do have some oil industry, but maybe I don't want to waste this forest here just because of getting some oil. And what I actually found is that location over here. So I might be able to build a highway connection from here to over there. Except for the fact that I do have already a train line, or at least two train lines running right through it or right next to it. I would have to establish this new connection here at least to create a better connection to this part of town here, where all my cargo airport sits, and a huge hub of warehouses and whatnot. So the other part I'm actually thinking about, and I think this is even more reasonable because it's a smaller part, so something that I could easily get started with. I do have highway connections that already exist here. The only thing that I might have to reorganize are those amenities here that I need for my farming district, but those could be relocated quite easily, I think. Maybe to over here or to some other place, so I'll have to check and see. And the other thing I want to do anyway is, since I got started with that in the last two episodes, is I want to run those train tracks above ground instead of below ground, because I think it's better when they are visible, because then you can see what's happening, you can see what the traffic is doing and whatnot. The train traffic, of course, I'm talking about here. So I think I'm going to get started with that little part here. Hopefully that works out as I intended it to be, but honestly I don't have a specific plan yet, so I'm usually someone who gets started building things, and then we have to check and see whether it works out or whether it doesn't. This would also include the fact that I need more power supplies, of course, because I think, as far as I remember, oil industry is quite power hungry, obviously. because all the post-processing of the oil is usually quite energy extensive, which is kind of a bummer on the one hand, but also kind of a no-brainer. So that might actually require to build a bigger farm of those wind turbines and sea turbines, whatever, water turbines, whatever they are called. And the other advantage that I would have here by establishing the industry exactly here is that I have a very, very good connection to my cargo airport that might actually help me transporting the goods out of town, but also to other locations where I might need them in the near future, like post-processing plants and maybe some factories that might need and require oil products. So yeah, before we're getting started, I would like to thank you for joining me in today's episode here of me, Ben, playing City Skylines in Springvalley. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would very much appreciate if you did so, because obviously I want to grow my channel over time, especially since the launch of City Skylines 2 is almost right around the corner, too far away for me by now, but it is actually right around the corner. It's just a couple of months away, so not too far. And the other thing, if you enjoy my videos and if you enjoy my type of gameplay and this kind of new format for this channel where I'm commenting on my gameplay videos actually with voiceovers after recording the gameplay, except for this introduction here and also the end of this video. Yeah, if you enjoyed, leave me a like, leave me a comment down below. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions, so please shoot them over. And yeah, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to get started with is actually the deletion of my train tracks, the existing ones, including all the tunnels that I have here. Now I'm beginning to build my new line here. I'm separating both exit train tracks from my cargo terminal hub here into two different train lines, or at least train tracks, because obviously I do have one strong connection that goes further out of my city limits, and the other one heads right into or across the river to my other industries, so my forest industry. So I wanted to make sure that I'm separating the train traffic, kind of just to make sure that I'm safe for the future, but still there needs to be a possibility of intersection, so somehow trains have to get from A to B, and they might also have to switch tracks along the way, which is the reason why I'm separating the train traffic here. And now I'm also going to rebuild parts of the bridge here to create a nicer slope, but also a better angle for me to connect to the new train tracks here. And with the help of the slope tool in the network multi-tool, I'm able to create a nice and more reasonable slope across the river. And here I'm beginning to connect up the existing line with the other one that leads straight out of my city. And what I didn't realize at that point that this was actually creating only a loop. So I deleted that in a second step. And to get to a nicer, more beautiful highway overpaths, I'm first deleting the existing highway and then using the standard mode by creating a little elevation here of 6 meters or 3 meters. In the end, putting one step in between and then closing the connection back up to where it needs to be. And now I'm also deleting the on and off ramps to this intersection, and I'm rebuilding those almost from scratch, just to make sure that I have a nicer look and feel to it. Now another important step follows, as I need to make sure that my train tracks that lead to the airport hub also have an option to get straight out of the city. So later on I will also add another cargo train station next to my oil fields, and this is becoming one important way how to get all of the goods like petroleum, oil and plastics out of town and off to nowhere or somewhere, either neighboring cities or other manufacturing plants that will be located somewhere else, probably across my town. And since the whole landscape was a little bit challenging, I'm actually using the smoothing tool or softening tool for the slopes. But later on, I will still experience a little bit of a challenge to get this highway overpath and also the connection to my on and off ramps in a nice way down to my oil fields. And now I will also lay down already the starting road or the road that connects straight to my transport cargo hub. And I'm also creating kind of a loop for trucks to come in from one side, leave on the other side, and go back to a major like industrial road with at least 4 lines to get back to their daily duties in my industrial city here, or in my industrial zone. That's all about oil. So now I prepared everything pretty well for the future upcoming traffic, and knowing from the past, like oil is general a huge, massive traffic production thing. So I might even have to increase the whole loop and everything else in the next episode. So unfortunately, in this step I'm using the wrong zone or district marking tool, because that doesn't help, and I just realized it after putting down the main building for my oil industry that this kind of didn't work. And here I'm beginning to remove the existing district marking, deleting everything back again, and establishing a new industrial zone, of course. And now it's about time to establish the water connection for my oil industry. So I'm always following the road lines as kind of a guideline here, because I think it's more reasonable to put water lines, water pipes below or underneath the roads. This is luckily in the future a step that we won't have to make in some Skylines too, as they kind of set it as a standard that all electricity, or at least the household electricity and water, will be transported automatically below street level, which is a good thing, I believe. And after setting everything up, I think it's time to put down a few workers' barracks for, just because of the fact that I need a lot more workers in the oil industry. So I'm putting down many of them just to be future safe, but I'll also increase this number throughout this episode later on. And here comes the first road into my oil reservoir. And since I was sure that I will need a lot more power for this new kind of industry, I'm first rearranging, but also already putting down some advanced wind turbines into the riverbed, but I'll rearrange them in a second just to save a bit more space. And the reason why I'm doing so is actually because I'm not yet sure whether I might establish something like a ferry line in a little bit to, for my citizens to get from point A to point B, or from one side of the river to the next. So this is the reason why I want to give my ferries a bit more room to navigate. Back to my oil field, there are also a few more things that I needed to place down, like an not the drilling platform, but the pyrolysis plant to produce some, or petrochemical brand, whatever I chose there, to produce a little bit of polymers and plastics and whatnot. So I needed a couple of industries or buildings that helped me process the oil that was actually being sucked out of the ground and earth. And with this step I clearly try to separate processing from gathering, just to make sure that the trucks are not all over the place and kind of traveling from A to B in a hopefully quick enough way and short enough way so that they don't get into each other's way. But that didn't work out at the very beginning, so something I didn't remember is that the sheer amount of trucks coming in, or at least wandering around in such an oil field, is just massive. And I'm refining my road layout later on with distinct roads for one-way roads, just to make sure that I keep the traffic in a certain direction and not going round and everywhere. And then obviously I need some storage for my oil here as well. What I completely missed at that point is that I have two more byproducts. The one is plastic and petroleum. And I completely forgot putting down specific warehouses that would take on that kind of raw material or processed material. And I'm just remembering that and having a look at that by the end of this episode. So I'm fixing it in this episode. But at the very beginning, I'm completely forgetting about it. And now it's about time to connect everything to my electricity network. And what I actually didn't understand, and you will see this in a few seconds I think, what I actually didn't understand is that this little bridge between the oil containers nearby my train station and the other buildings there, that this wasn't enough to get the rest powered up. So first I thought, I might have just not enough electricity in this part of town, because if you remember, that part of town is completely separate from the energy production of my downtown area, so that's a bit tricky. Hopefully we can gain more insights if you have a setup like this in City Skylines too, where you get a better understanding whether maybe one district is purely underserved because there is no connection to the main electricity network, or whether it's overserved, or how the overall situation is from an electricity perspective. Now it's about time to add in a few more smaller oil rigs here to produce more of my raw materials. And again, I'm putting down a few more processing things here and a few storage options for my trucks to go to dump the oil in. And now it's time to set up a few more city services and add them to this new industrial district here, because obviously oil might be dangerous, might be easier to cause fire hazards, and also crime might be a bigger issue there, which is the reason why I'm slowly but steadily dumping in like fire departments, police departments and hospitals within the next few minutes. And here I just realized that, I'm kind of already running out of oil. So what I didn't do is activate unlimited oil as a game option. I will have to do that later on, because that's one thing I don't want to worry about, because otherwise I could already get started and move my oil industry from one place to the next. But that's something I obviously don't want to do. And I want to keep it there. I want it to stay there. So I will activate that before the next episode and make sure that it's running smoothly. By having a look at the stats here, I realized that I'm missing out on a couple of things to meet the requirements for the next level. So I don't have enough workers here, but I also haven't gathered enough oil yet. So that's something I will work on in a little bit. But now it's time for traffic solving by setting up a few more one-way roads, just to make sure that the traffic only flows into one direction, especially here in the oil fields directly. And later on I'm also putting in a few more nodes to allow my trucks to switch lanes if they need to, even if it would be in a very short distance. And now it's time to improve the settings for the crossings, because I realized I do have traffic lights here, but I still also have pedestrian overpaths. Obviously nobody's using them here in the industrial zone, but still, I just wanted to make sure that the trucks can flow nicely. Here you can see me adding in a little bit of lane management, just to make sure that the trucks coming from the left are only choosing the left side of the road, and the trucks coming in from the right only choose the right side of the road. And what I soon realized is that I need another node, just to make sure that the trucks can change lanes if they need to. And yeah, as you can see, the traffic is almost gone, so it's fine. But here already another problem arises, which is, traffic on my train tracks, which is bad because this, as far as I remember, tells me that with this outgoing train connection there's something wrong, or there must be something wrong. So I have to fix that in a little bit, but first I have to find the article again on Google, and if I can find it I will obviously share it with you in my next episode. But other players have mentioned that there is kind of an issue sometimes with the outgoing train connections, and here, like, my trains don't leave the city, which is bad. So I have to fix that definitely, because I can't allow them to just stand in the traffic and block all my existing rail connections here. because obviously it doesn't only inflict the cargo trains but also passenger trains, and that's something I don't want to see that happening. I'm undertaking another try to fix it, but obviously, as you can see, I wasn't really able to get that fixed, so I have to research it and then do it again in the next episode. And oil fields never come without challenges, so the next thing I need is a recycling thing, because trash in the main building is piling up. And on the right side I also realized that there's some water connectivity problem, so I'm not having enough water lines here that lead straight to the end of this little road that connect the workers' barracks to the water network properly. Yeah, and obviously if you like this kind of playing style, I would be very happy if you would leave me a like here, because I want to concentrate more on gameplay and less on commenting, so I'm doing it not everything at once, but yeah, my voiceover approach here might be a future solution for me, at least for now. So tell me your thoughts, tell me what you think about it, and I appreciate your feedback anytime. Thank you. So I think that's about it with this episode. Actually, I established a brand new oil field here in my city. And the thing is, with oil industries, you're running usually into a couple of issues. Like, first of all, you need a lot of pumps or, those, I don't know, oil, let's call them towers. I don't remember the correct name for it. Then you need a couple of processing plants here and there. Also there for petroleum and plastics. And out of those plastics you can create later on like some commercial goods for your local commerce, which is really helpful to drive the industry even further. The other thing I'm experiencing here, and that's something I actually have to look up for, I've read about this in the past, but I can't remember when and where. But it was just recently, and I'm running into like a train traffic issue. So those that oil that gets transported from all of my industry or my newly established industry out of town, alongside with the passenger trains, does seem to have some trouble getting off the map, because usually that shouldn't happen. And I remember that there's some kind of fix for this. I just can't give you the exact reason why it happens, but it has to do something with the border lines in City Skylines 1. And what I see happening, which is something that's really great actually, is that some of the trains get to my cargo train hub here on the airport, which is amazing because they can obviously switch from here to there to there to there, and then get the oil to the cargo airport. But as you can see, oil brings in another problem, and this is more demand for cargo airport things here. Like, I'm not sure yet, but I think I might have to expand this airport pretty soon, just to make sure that I can meet all the demand that obviously seems to exist somehow, somewhere. So that's a huge thing. As you can see, all those planes that just arrived, they can't get to one of those stations here to drop off their cargo, so that's another huge thing right now. But yeah, so far I think I'll also be able to solve this little minor traffic thing here over time as well in my oil field, the Florence oil field as the game called it. So yeah, for this episode, I think it's always kind of challenging to establish a new industry somewhere in your city, because it always brings along a couple of changes that you will have to incorporate to make sure that everything's running smoothly. At some point during the gameplay, I was able to get a couple of those things actually fixed, and it's still like kind of flowing with some stops here and there. But alone by establishing here a few more processing plants, I think it got it got a little bit worse again, because each plant comes with a number of right tracks, and this is one of the things that's actually causing the trouble here. And I'm wondering, maybe I'm not even storing the petroleum somewhere, so I might have to think. Let me just check on one thing, because that's something I would love to do, as long as I can do it in a reasonable manner. And I think this is storing the petroleum somewhere in a underground thingy. I think that actually might be absolutely helpful to do that. Might require some detour here and there from some of the trucks, but I think it's time to store at least some of it if possible. Storage mode, yeah, but that's also only storing oil, so I'm deleting them right away because that doesn't help, obviously. I'm just wondering, do you have to put down warehouse? Large, medium, I don't know, maybe a medium-sized one. Oh, maybe a couple of smaller ones actually. And let me see whether I can store petroleum there. There we go. So that's one thing I definitely have to take care of. And also the plastic thing is something that I need to make sure of, because right now this is full. I hardly have any room left for further production here, but I definitely need one storage for plastics. That's something I'm going to set up right away here, just so that I don't forget about it. After all, so that brings a couple more trucks on the road, back on the road, because things have to be stored at some point in time. But still, like alone the fact that I included a couple more nodes here and there, I think this was actually absolutely helpful, because that way trucks can switch lanes more easily. And yeah, I wish there was a 8-lane thing for cargo, but I think there isn't. I just have to, not cargo, but industrial thing, and it's only the highway. That's a one-way concrete highway with 3 lanes again, so I can't change this here, because the lane math here, as you can see, is not working at all. And that's not good. I would need like a 2-lane, 4-lane thing, or at least a 2-lane, a 3-lane, 4-lane thing, whatever, or 4-lane, 4-lane, I don't mind. But this here gets me into trouble because again, there's no 1-lane, 1-way industrial road available currently in the game. I hope this is one of the other things that City Skylines 2 might improve as soon as it's released. And for this episode, I again would like to thank you for joining me today. In case you liked it, please consider leaving me a like. Follow me if you haven't already, and I hope to see you soon back on my channel here on YouTube, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Have a good one, and hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.